So hello book lovers, thank you so much for clicking on my video. My name is Nana and today I want to talk about books that potentially could get you out of a reading slump. Sometimes you're just in a reading slump and you just need a good, quick and easy book to get out of it. So I have chosen a book where you get easily hooked and they're not too heavy, if you know what I mean. Because usually heavy books can get me into a reading slump. We're not having that. And I have thrillers, I have romance, I have some fantasy books, some middle grades, a little bit of everything. So I hope that you like this video. And yeah, let's get into it. And let's start with the thrillers. And the first book I'm going to mention is The Girl Before. And this is a book I just thought about. I read it some years ago, but it was really great actually. And it is by J.P. Delaney and it follows two women, Emma and Jane. They both live in this house but not at the same time, so we have like separate timelines. And one of them is living there with her boyfriend and the other one is living there completely by herself. She just lost a newborn baby, and I said this wasn't going to be heavy, but this has more thriller vibes than a grieving vibe, so bear with me. There are things happening in this house. The house is placed on Folgate Street, and it is a designer house designed by this really famous architect. And is he a bad guy? Is he not? Because there are weird things happening in this house. Is he lurking on these women, or what is going on? And yeah, I know it does not sound light, right? That's because I started with the thrillers, but I really liked the book, and HBO made a show as well, and that was great too. So if you want to watch that instead, you can go do that. But yeah, that was the first thriller. And the next one is called The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I have not seen a person pronouncing that name with confidence yet. I don't know how to say it, but yeah. This book has been all over BookTube, and it is about Alicia Berenson, and she is a famous painter, and then one day she kills her husband violently. She gets admitted to this psychiatric ward. And this case just gets blown up in the media because she was famous. I cannot remember if her husband was famous too. Anyways, then it's about Theo, who is a criminal psychotherapist. And he is really into this case. So he decides to apply for a job where Alicia Berenson is at. And he gets the job and he gets to be a therapist. And yeah, there are just so many plot twists in this book. Very fast to get through as well. Try it if you haven't. The next one is called One Place, One Time by Gillian McAllister. And this book is about a mother who sees her son committing a murder, and she is really confused because her son is not violent and she just has a really great son. Then the next day she's going back a day in time, and then the next day she's going another day back in. So she's kind of like living life backwards now, and she's doing that to solve this murder mystery. It was just so interesting, very unique, and I was really hooked. Definitely from like the middle of the book to the end, it got really good from there. So if you're into books about time traveling as well, this book was great for that. Then the last thriller I have with me today is called The Last by Hanna Jameson, and this one is a post-apocalyptic thriller. Again, could that be a little bit heavy? It was definitely interesting and exciting, so it was easy to get through, so maybe that's nice to get out of a sleeping slump. What? Reading slump. This one is about John, and he comes from America, but he is on a conference in Switzerland, and he's staying at this hotel up in the middle in the mountains in the Alps. Then they learn from the news that all the big cities has been bombed, and a lot of people are leaving the hotel, but some chooses to stay behind, some of the staffs and some of the guests, and they're just trying to survive up there. And there's a murder mystery as well, and it was just really good. Yeah, I liked it. It was a good thriller. And if you're not into thrillers has not been my thing. This one is more up my alley. Then I have some YA books, and I think sometimes YA can be nice to read when you're in a reading slump, because they can be a little bit more easy to get started on. But there's also a lot of YA books that is just not for me anymore. But I have found some. And the first one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. And this book is really popular, and with good reason. It's about Pip, and she's writing this school project about Andy Bell, who is a girl from her neighborhood that disappeared, and Andy Bell's boyfriend at the time has been accused of her murder. But she does not believe that is the correct story, and she's trying to solve this. It was really interesting. It is a trilogy, did I say that? And nerve-wracking, and I was just hooked from beginning to the end. The end was a little bit... Could Pip have made some other choices? Yes, she could have. But I'm not going to spoil anything. But yeah, anyways, the series was really great, and go read it if you haven't. The next YA book is called Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessl. And this one is about Beatrice and 5 of her friends. And they get stuck in this time loop. It's hard to say much more without spoiling too much. But they have to solve something. And it was really interesting. And it had that really foggy vibe to it. They're stuck in Neverworld. That is this time loop world. It was just really nice with that vibe, if you know what I mean. And it was really easy to read, and a very fast read as well. So a good book for a reading slump. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say about that book. The next one is called Ready Player One. And this one is about Wade Watts. And he is living in this world where a virtual world is more important than the real world. People are having a lot of gears to live in this virtual world. That's where you go to school. That's where you go to your office job. And yeah, a whole lot of things. He goes to school in this world Oasis as well. The creator behind this Oasis has passed. But when he died, he released this competition, and he put out some clues. So if you can win this quest, you win the rights to Oasis. And the government is really trying to solve this. And basically, the whole country is trying to solve this. Wade too, and he cracks the first clue. And then everyone is coming after him. It was really exciting. There's a lot of 80 references in here as well, and it's funny and also a little bit sad sometimes. And yeah, this is just a book that has a lot of things in it. It is a great YA book, definitely. I think there's a movie as well, but that is not as good as the book. That's what I have been told, but you can make your own opinion, obviously. Let's move on to the romance books. I think I have mentioned some of these books quite a lot, but that's because they're great books. And the first one is by Emily Henry, and that's called People We Meet on Vacation. This is about Puppy and Alex, and they became best friends in college, and each year they go on vacation together, and they have been doing that for 10 years. And you know what? This vacation might be the vacation. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. But I love friends to lovers, and this really had that trope. So if you're into that, this is a great book for that. I know a lot of people are more into enemies to lovers, but I am such a friends to lovers woman. And the other book is also by Emily Henry, and I just read that recently, and that's called Happy Place. And I loved it as well. It's about Gwen and Harriet. And they just broke up, but they also each year go on vacation with their friend group. And they haven't told their friend group that they have broken up yet. And when they get there, one of the couples in that friend group announces that they're going to get married in a few days. So they do not want to ruin their vibe, and they just keep their breakup as a secret. And do they reconnect? Maybe. But yeah, it was just such a great read. I really did enjoy it, really. So if you're into like second chances as well, give this book a go. The next one is called Hate Mail by Donna Marchetti, and this one is about Luca and Naomi. And Luca and Naomi have been pen pals since they were in elementary school. They haven't been writing to each other the last couple of years, but then they start that up again, and they have never met in real life. But Naomi is trying to figure out where Luca is living, and she's going back through all of the letters that they have sent to each other to see if she can find some clues. There's also another guy in her apartment building, and he's also quite interesting. I was really entertained this summer when I was reading this book, and I haven't seen it going around on BookTube at all, so I thought that's why I wanted to include it. So I'm not just talking about the same books over and over again. Yeah, good romance book. The next romance book I have talked about a whole lot, and that's called Part of Your Well by Abby Jimenez. And this one is about Daniel and Alexis. And Alexis comes from this very famous family that are doctors, and they basically own this hospital, and, you know, prestigious family. And Daniel comes from the middle of nowhere, and he's a nobody. But Alexis' car crashes, and Daniel helps her out, and they're spending the night together, and they fall in love, and they're trying to figure out if they can unite their lives. This book is so funny as well, really funny, and it's also heavy at times as well, because there are some abusive relationships here and there, and yeah, it just has it all. I really loved it. I think everyone is, and yeah, it's just a great book. It's part of a trilogy, but I haven't read the other books yet, but I think they're going to be great as well. Then the last romance book I have on here is called The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, and this one is about Olive and Ethan, and Olive's sister and Ethan's brother are getting married, and at that wedding everybody is getting food poisoning except for Olive and Ethan. Then the bridal couple is telling them, please go on our honeymoon because we cannot go, we're really sick. And Olive and Ethan have never liked each other, but they do go on this honeymoon, and yes, so that was the plot of that. And then I have some books where I didn't exactly know what genre I should put them into, but I just love this particular vibe that those two books have. It's quite similar. But the first one is called The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I have seen this book around on BookTube a whole lot because it's really good. And it's about Evelyn Hugo, who becomes a famous actress in the 50s, I think. And then it's about her career until she's a older woman, and the reason why she had 7 husbands. I just really love the vibe of this book, and I love the descriptions of Hollywood, and yeah, it was so interesting. And it's also a lot about how poorly women have been treated, and Evelyn is a strong woman and she's fighting back, so yeah, it's just a great book. And the other one is called Tom Lake by Anne Patchett, and this one is about Laura, who is in this town play when she's in high school. She learns that maybe she has a talent for acting as well, and then she goes on to play in some bigger theater groups, and she's telling her acting career to her 3 adult girls, because now she's working at this cherry farm that she owns with her husband, and they are like wondering, why did she go from being an actress to work on a cherry farm? That's really weird. And again, the vibe of this book was just great. But yeah, I love the descriptions of the theater group and also the cherry farm as well. Yeah, it was just so good. I was just really relaxed and leaned back when I was listening to this audiobook. It's narrated by Meryl Streep, and she did a really great job with it. And yeah, if you know what I mean, just that vibe, Yeah, okay. Then I have some fantasy books, and the first one I'm going to mention is the Acotar series. And I know I have talked about this series a whole lot, but that's because it's just really great. It's a adult romantasy series. So there's a lot of spice in this as well. And if you're not into spice, I would not read this book. But this one is about Fairy, who is a human. Her village is like bordering up to the Feyland. There's a wall that are separating them from the Fays. But she accidentally kills a Fey. And as a punishment, she's going to the Feyland. And she's like, why is that a punishment? Why don't you kill me? But she learns a little while later why not. I have heard a lot of people are not so much into the first book, and then they read the second book and they're like, okay, yes. But for me, the first book was just really great as well. The first half of it were like, so, I don't know, you're just in this Feyland, and it was so interesting, and it was light-ish. And then the second half of the book, it was like, okay, now it's getting a bit more serious and heavy, but I love that part as well. And book 2 is one of my favorite books in the entire world, so go read this series if you haven't. The next one is a middle grade that I wanted to include. It's not particularly a favorite of mine, but I have heard many people loving this book, and it was a sweet and very easy book to read as well, and it's called A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher. And this one is about Mona. And Mona has some magical powers, and some of the people in this town have magical powers, but a lot of people have not, and they're a little bit scared of these people having magical powers. And Mona can control dough, and she has this sourdough that's called Bob. Bob is great. Then one day, this town is getting invaded, and Mona is trying to save the town, and yeah, it's kind of like a little adventure. Sweet, funny, nice little book. And I see why a lot of people are loving this book. I thought it was fine, and it's definitely a good book to get out of a reading slump, maybe because it's so easy to start. And the next one is called the Nevermoor series. It's not finished yet. I think the 4th book is out or comes out very soon. It's by Jessica Townsend. I have them in Danish. And this one is about Morrigan. And Morrigan gets rescued from her family by this man. He takes her to this secret country, Nevermoor. And she gets to live there at his very unique and amazing hotel. And she's going to this magical school, but she's like, I don't have any magical powers. But she soon discovers that she has some very unique powers. It definitely has that trope of the chosen one. It was just great. There's so many things happening in this series. I cannot wait to continue it. It was just great. Really, really great. So, yeah, one of my favorite books. I had to mention it again. But yeah. Then the last one is a little bit different again. I was trying to find books with a lot of different genres. And this one is called The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. And Madeline Miller writes Greek mythology, rewrites it. This book is a sad love story between two boys that become best friends and then later on lovers. And it's about war, and there's so many things happening in Madeline Miller's books, but she has a very unique way of writing, and she writes really beautifully. Yeah, I think a lot of people are loving her books. I listened to this as an audiobook and definitely loved it. Yeah, give it a try. I think it was a great book to get out of a reading slump. That is all the books I will mention today. So I hope that you find some inspiration, and I hope that I will see you in another video, and you have a good day. Bye.